Oops, shout out to Marcella and that awesome blazer.
Hi, Marcella.
Hi. This is Robyn. She is one of our founding members, and I am so excited to introduce the world to you.
It's my first time on Facebook Live.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. You have to stay in the shot though. Like, the people need to see you. They want to see you.
I'm not of the millennial generation, so I don't always understand technology.
I don't think I am too. What is the cutoff? Do you know what the cutoff
well,
is?
I'm an exennial because I'm 77, so exennial is like 77 to 81, which is a whole different ballgame. But I think it's, I don't know, like 80 something.
Okay, well maybe I'm a millennial. Okay, I'm gonna shift this way so we make sure we get your beautiful face in there. Okay,
that's the bathroom behind us, so somebody might make an appearance.
This is true. So what I want to just talk about your existence in Saratoga and in my life.
Okay.
Like you came into my life was that last January? And a wrecking ball, yeah. But last January, we were introduced. I was introduced to you through Crystal,
right? And
you were very pregnant.
I was very pregnant. It was 2 Januaries ago then. Not this January, last January. January.
Oh yeah, last January.
It's a while. It's a long time. And I was introduced to Crystal through Katie Cartini from Chloe.
Oh yeah.
I was introduced to through my former firm.
Okay.
And
worlds collide.
Making all these different connections. Networking is really important.
Yeah. I actually just met Kate. She came in on Friday.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So it was really great to meet her, and you just never know who is gonna know who, right? So you have to always just.
I was introduced to Katie. It was a Friday before Christmas, and I was telling her that I knew no one up here because I had moved from New York City to Saratoga, which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about in the next hour.
I just got back from the city, and you just got back from the city too yesterday.
Like last night. But I'm there all the time. So. And I was telling her how I didn't know anybody, and I got introduced to my firm, and it was their industry up here. And she literally was like, "Come on!" I was 8 months pregnant. She's like, my apartment building is having a holiday party. I want to introduce you to all these people. So I ended up meeting Crystal and her husband. What's his name? Colin. And meeting them. And then Crystal invited me to the meeting where you first were threw these business plans in front of me. I think it wasn't even a business plan. I think it was a loose, floor plan for palette, and you're like, I want to start this thing, and it's my hair is pink, and it's all girl power. And then you were asking me questions about whether you should take partners on and how to structure it, and all these things. And I just remember thinking, wow, there's really cool things, and I really wish that palette had existed when I first came to town.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and then we meet people all the time who are moving up here from the city who want that extra experiential space, right? To gather in, or even just to get coffee.
I was just going to say, I don't think it's necessarily coming up from the city. I think that what I'm starting to hear and see from all the different events that I'm attending and just having conversations is that some pretty badass people are coming out of the woodwork.
Yes.
People that are making changes, people that have accomplished really awesome things, and just really nice people that want to have a place to be.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for this small town feel of walking in just now, and I knew everybody in the back door. I was working on a luminary yesterday, and it was really fun. It's a very different big city vibe. But then I loved coming here and walking the door and be like, oh, hey, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes when you have to get here, because I was here 3 seconds ago, you can't always say hello, but anyway, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I want to point out that, I never imagined, when I met you, it didn't have a preconceived notion about what you were going to do for me or what I was going to do for you. It was literally just we met, and then we just connected, and then we just cultivated this relationship. And Robyn was actually, she showed up on the event that I had when the cafe was open, and I was like, I'm just going to have an event where we invite people to see what we want to do, what our plan is to do upstairs, and if people wanted to join, they could. And Robyn showed up, and she joined.
I think I thought I was the first person to put a credit card down to sign up.
Maybe.
And then I think I found out later that I wasn't, and I was sort of.
Well, it's funny that Mary Jo English. Do you know Mary Jo?
I met her before.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary Jo.
So she just came on, but she was actually the very first member because as soon as we launched it on our website, she signed up.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was that night.
But she was there that night also.
And I was with Miles. if I remember correctly.
Yes.
I was sitting there like with him and the Bjorn and like trying to type and fill out the application, and I had my credit card there, and this was when he was not mobile. Now he would like blow things up here, and he did during your pitch.
I know. That was so much fun. But like that night was super fun because like we had 10 people join that night, and it was just an exciting.
And it's a
like,
testament to the
everybody was like doing it in real time and meeting each other, and there was just like so much excitement. I mean, I don't even know how else to explain it.
And I think though, I think it took a little bit of time. What was that, like September?
That was July 31st. I hadn't had Zia yet. I was still pregnant with Zia.
Right, I met you pregnant, and you met me pregnant, right? You were pregnant.
I was just barely pregnant.
I think you told me at that meeting with Crystal, like you're like, nobody needs to know, but I'm having another one, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think you did. Like it was like a secret still.
Well, because I was working on this business, and I knew that I would get like the shit, right? That people will be like, oh, how are you gonna do this? You're gonna do a business and have another baby?
Can we dig
like
in there,
that's
can we
a
dig
lot.
in there a little bit?
Yeah, we can.
Because that is.
I would love to dig into
She has
this.
all these questions for you that she literally just gave me a minute ago, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna turn it on you.
Well, Marcella she's our magical unicorn, resident unicorn, and she creates all these questions so that we don't go off on tangents, because that's literally what I do
But it's
all the time.
important.
But it's important, yeah.
Because this issue about covering, right? Like, so you spent the first X number of months with your pregnancy trying to start this baby here and grow a baby, and you were almost like not so excited to talk about it because you didn't want to face the questions about what and how and who, and this is very similar to, and what we can get a little bit to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Make my official launch.
Yeah, because you have big news to share. Well, this is the thing. I already have 2 daughters. At the time, I already had 2 daughters, and then I already had a business. And also at the time, we had just closed the Latham studio, and we were, people didn't know yet, but we were on
the Latham Paint and Sip studio. Not everybody knows.
Oh yeah, the Latham Paint and Sip studio, and we were in the works of selling the Burlington Paint and Sip studio to 2 of our artists. So we were in this like limbo stage where I was working on a business, I was selling a business, we were sustaining Paint and Sip in Saratoga, and then I found out I was pregnant. And it was like, oh wait, well, if I tell people that I'm also pregnant, they're gonna think I'm a lunatic. If they didn't think I was a lunatic already, they're gonna definitely think I'm a lunatic now, because
do you thrive off of
who
that?
In the world would do all of this
Do you
at one
thrive off
time?
of that? Like, does that drive you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Fuck
it
yes.
does for me.
If someone tells me, or like, literally our cookies today say don't judge a book by its cover, because this is like the story of my life. People don't take me seriously. Well, it's not even about the pink hair. People didn't take me seriously when I had brown hair. They didn't. So I have pink hair now. I freaking love it. It brings me joy and happiness every day. And like literally nothing has changed, right? So I still have to, go above and beyond and like prove my worth.
I mean, going back to the original question, right? It's a question that all women face, and actually even men sometimes, right? Like men are making a sacrifice by going to work all day and not being with the kids. I mean, there's all these different issues that come up, but being afraid to say you're pregnant and to like want to not have to. It's hard enough to start a business. It's hard enough to take an idea from a fledgling little thing to reality, without having all the outside influences, which is definitely one of the reasons why I ultimately decided to go out on my own for the time being, while I'm, building a life and trying to create, wife, mother, life balance, and all the things that we want to do, because it's a challenge, and sometimes you just want to be able to answer to yourself.
Right. Definitely.
But I also think that it's important to talk about it, right? One of the things that's happened in the last 7 months for me since I officially came off of maternity leave is I've been told that I'm really good at starting the really difficult conversations. Like, I jumped right in and said, why was that hard for you? Like, why didn't you want to talk about it? Why didn't you want, to get excited about the fact that you were going to be doing all these multifaceted things, because you were like afraid for the backlash. You were afraid for the negativity.
Yeah, I was afraid that, I just wanted to I wanted to keep the conversation on the business and not be like, oh, baby, it's my third. It's not like groundbreaking. But my point is, which one? Yeah,
I'm the youngest child, so remember, I'm gonna be all about making sure that the first one gets as much as the third one, and vice versa.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's just, through that process though, like of becoming more pregnant and opening the business, you know, I kind of like realized it in real time that like my whole mission of what I'm doing and why I'm doing all of this is because I don't want my girls to grow up and think that they can't do whatever the hell they want to do, whether they're pregnant, whether they have kids, whether they're married, divorced, whatever. It doesn't matter. They should be able, I want them to live in a world that like none of this is an issue.
Right. And I think that there's going to be cultural challenges to overcome. And for me, the reason I wanted to start my own thing was to go one by one by one. Right, that I do believe that, yes, you want to try and shift culture through the masses, but at the same time, I need to sit down with somebody and say, here's why I didn't go back to a big firm. We're family planning now. I don't want to deal with the repercussions of maternity leave time. And, you know, it's different in this country than it is abroad, being, you know, celebrating motherhood and all these different things. So kind of taking the easier path, but at the same time, not doing it quietly, working with people to have these bigger conversations about why and how and nonlinear careers and taking a break here and trying this there, which is something that I never thought I would do. I was on Wall Street for almost 20 years, right? You know, yesterday I went to a business meeting in jeans and a blazer, and I literally said to my partner, because I started a new project, in a million years, I never thought I would be showing up like this, right? In a million years, you know, I thought it was going to be corporate America forever. And that's not to say I might not go back, but for now, you sometimes have to change from within, right? And that was sort of my goal for all those years is if we just ignore all the corporations and the stigmas and the cultures, then it's never going to change. But right now it's about one by one, and then I'll go back and attack the big corps.
Yeah, well, the other interesting thing is like we can't all just do our own thing, right? Like there's still people who need to be in corporate America making change and standing up for what they, you know, what is right, you know, and we do need more women on boards in corporate America at the end of the day.
Right. But it's not just about being in boards. It's being in boards is oftentimes can be a measurement that is sort of fluff.
Well, I also think that they should, like, a lot of women are on nonprofit boards, right? They're volunteer boards, they're not paid.
There's no women on corporate boards, but it's not just about being on corporate boards. It's being in a seat to make change. It's being in a seat to recognize that women can do things just as well as men. I mean, better. Right. I mean, but at the end of the day, just sitting there, unfortunately, is not enough anymore.
I agree. Yes. I guess, but my thing is that we can't just have. I'm sorry, I'm caught. Okay. My thing is like we can't just get fed up with the system and go and do our own thing, right? We have to be strategic and work on collaborating, right, with people who have that experience, people who have the entrepreneur experience, which is like being a female business owner. It's tough to come up with funding. It's tough to come by any of that stuff. And I mean, I guess we're going off on a tangent, but it's just like it is more difficult for women, and that's just fucking proof. And it's just like those are the facts.
I mean, what I like to say is I've created this business in part to be a bridge builder.
Okay, so let's go there then. Okay. So first of all, what you did do was you were working in finance in New York City.
Something like that.
Moved up to Saratoga. Had the babes.
Yes.
And have now decided to do this exciting new business.
You should be very clear that I moved up for my family.
Yes.
It was not by choice, but it was by design.
Yeah, so when I first met Robyn, she was still very much like, what am I doing in this small town, and how is this gonna all work?
In all fairness, and we should mention this, that I did go to school up here, right? And I never thought a day in my life I would be back in the Capital District. Yes, never. I went to Union College and I had a great experience, and we did a ton of Y2K stuff because it was a long time ago. I'm celebrating my 20th college reunion, which is crazy.
Whoa.
And I never thought I would be up in the Capital District. So when I first got here, I had a really hard time for a whole host of reasons to actually sit down and acknowledge. And candidly, Palette didn't exist at that time, right? So there was no place where I can kind of go in and air my grievances. It was not a natural place for me to go and find other people to talk to. And at the time, I was pregnant and angry, and I'm totally willing to admit it. I love you, David. But if I had had this resource a year earlier, where were you?
I'm here now.
We're not supposed to hug because of the coronavirus.
Oh, stop it. Don't live in fear. Still, I don't know. I went to that event yesterday and I was like, no handshaking.
Oh, come on.
And everybody was like doing the elbow.
Oh, really? But it can live on your elbow, so, it's all good.
Look,
I think
I mean,
I'm not spreading rumors.
If I'm going to get corona, I'm going to get corona.
I know. So, where was I? Oh, so coming up here and having a place where there was a natural convener of people that, even if they didn't think like me, were interested in engaging in a conversation. And I'm not saying it needs to be some crazy, complex financial derivative conversation. I'm talking about like, where should I go for a decent manicure? I'm coming from New York, so I have certain standards
yes.
which I'm willing to compromise if it's a good experience. And compromise isn't even the right word, but explore and go out and what are the great places and really, quite frankly, like how to stop, how to be less busy, how to power down, how to enjoy the moment. Like all of these things, there was no receptacle. So that made it harder. And then I had the baby and then there was isolation and postpartum, which is what I've come out of because that shit is real.
Yeah, and well, do you kind of agree that like no one could have prepared you for that?
No.
Because I feel like, I didn't have postpartum with Posey. I had like a blissful, amazing pregnancy. I worked through the whole thing and then Ruby's pregnancy was fine too, but it was after Ruby that I just completely lost it.
I mean, I think that I knew the possibility. We've had family history. So knowing the possibility, did it set me up? No, not really. It still was really difficult, but I knew how to acknowledge it and I knew how to ask for help.
That's so huge,
but I did
right?
it right away because, we're all like a little crowd. And so I'm willing to see that like, it's really difficult. It's really hard. You got to own it. You got to go right through it. You can't go around it. And so when I first tried to go back to work, right, so I had Miles in January and I started in May and, we had somebody helping us with him, watching him, and I was able to go down to the city a few times and interview, and I would come home each time and like just fall away. Like I didn't understand. I mean, I knew I was going through something, but I thought I was all there and I totally wasn't. So I took the summer off. Then we hired an amazing nanny because in September I came off of maternity leave and I was going hardcore, trying to find that job, trying to find that opportunity, trying to put myself in a position where I could have the proverbial everything, which, the proverbially everything, what does that mean, right? We have to define our success. We have to define the parameters of our goals. And I think there's also what I'm trying to do now is help people understand what those goals are, what success means. Like I think there's big, hairy, audacious goal setting. Mm-hmm. And then there's just sort of the reality of life and what we can do and what we can't do. And, is being busy a measure of success? Is it not? Is how many zeros in your bank account? Is it not? Owning a business or not? Having children or not? Having work like that? Like all these things, it's no longer just a dollars and cents. It's a life thing, right? And so I spent probably from September until the end of January, right when Miles turned 1, and I was getting, really was having a lot of fun. I was doing a lot of angel investing work. I was doing a lot of consulting for free because, that's what we do. And I was hoping that something was going to lead to the next greatest opportunity. Candidly, geography was a constraint. I mean, my whole network is down there, and some of the places up here weren't necessarily the right fit for me from a culture perspective. And really, it was about finding the next seat that would work for me. I was at, most of my career was spent in one institution, and I enjoyed sort of helping to frame and shape and build and all those good things, and I wanted to find that again. And then after one too many, oh gosh, you're such a luxury hire for us right now. Like your background is phenomenal and we really want what you have to offer. Or, you need to be in New York 5 days a week. And at first I was like, I got this, I can do that. But I made a commitment to David and Miles to be up here. And so after one more point, candidly, and this is what, I was open and honest to hopefully help others.
Yes.
I got one really, really big rejection to like what I thought was my dream job. And it really like kicked me in the gut, but it made me also think like, could I really be away from home for 5 days? And right, and then there comes the balance between the New York and Saratoga, or the New York City and Saratoga, and am I really in the mood, in the place to do the work? And ultimately the decision was like, yes, no, maybe so. And so that night we were driving down to the city, because of course we threw a rager for Miles' first birthday.
Which I was at, it was so much
for
fun.
everybody to meet.
It was over the top and so perfect for the first birthday. The first birthday is so much a bigger, it's like also such a big deal for you as parents to have gotten through the first year. I mean, it's like crazy.
You survived.
And so it's worth it. I mean, we did a big, huge bash.
Yeah, and we had a good time. I mean, it was hard because I wanted to talk with everybody, but I'm not too proud to admit that I started crying during Happy Birthday, because I looked down and I saw my village, and I think there's a part of me that was trying to recreate that up here, and you can't, right? It's a different thing, but what is it that I needed from, what is it that I get from that village, or what is it that I need here? It's really like digging down deep and figuring it out. And so, you know, I'm super excited to, I mean, that's sort of an announcement, right? Like, on our way down to Miles' birthday party, Dave and I decided that I was going to launch my own firm. So we're calling it More Strategy, MORR. You can dig into that 16 different ways till Sunday. But I started, as I said, to create the wife-mom life balance, to overcome geographic boundaries. I can be here, there, and everywhere. You know, I want to be able to partner with as many institutions as I can to create the desired change that just needs some direction, that have frustration. Sometimes it's easier to kind of lean on somebody else to create the change that you need. Even I'm right now using an incredible friend of mine to help sort of tweak my model and to kind of take all of this stuff that's up here and put it on paper. And I know that's one of my weaknesses, is that I'm always like, I have these, you know, big, hairy, audacious goals, and I want to put them in paper and make sure that I can provide and deliver a solid product, a straightforward service. Again, be that bridge builder between you know, the traditional work and social change, and I'll get into a little bit of that too. You know, create a space for financial literacy and awareness, to start talking about the emotion of money, to basically be, you know, I think I'll read my tagline or my mission, which I really shouldn't necessarily read, but we'll do it here. Because this is the first time.
This is real life. And so, this is like a big announcement, right?
So my mission, our mission, More Strategy, is from advice to execution. We create impactful strategies to envision, develop, and realize outcomes. And it's sort of this broad statement to say there's so much going on in the world, and we want to capture the best of what you want, right? Not everything. You don't have to be everything to everybody. We are an independent, cross-disciplinary advisory and consultancy firm, providing bespoke advice and hands-on solutions. And our areas of specialization include capital introduction. So what does that mean if you're a startup?
Money, money, honey, that's what that means.
When I find something that I'm passionate about, I go to the mattress, to use an old cliche saying about, you know, kind of finding interesting and different ways to find capital sources, to find people that want to support your mission. There's a whole lot of money out there just waiting to invest in good ideas. And also kind of tailoring expectations that not every investment is going to knock the cover off the ball. Not every investment is going to put your kids through college or going to buy you that fancy bag that you've been lusting after, or whatever it is, right? Sometimes it's about building a community. Sometimes the end result isn't something tangible, but what I like to do with my clients, and what my clients are constantly asking me to do, is to help bring some measurement framework to it, right? I grew up in the traditional finance world. I worked as a portfolio manager and research analyst. I worked as a strategist. I mean, I've done a lot of things that are the technical, I worked in a lot of rooms full of men, and that like fueled me when they'd ask me to go get their coffee, and then I'd sit down and grill their asses.
Oh.
Right? I mean, this is a long time ago, and I'm probably exaggerating, but the idea
still happens though.
It does, but you fuel that to then say, okay, what does all that mean? So within these ideas, to help build framework around, okay, if we're going to invest in X, we want to see the outcomes of ABC or whatever it is. So doing a little bit of that. Doing investment due diligence, what does that mean? We're also overflowed. We're also overloaded, and we have overflow work that is important. That's important to your clients, that's important to your constituents. So some of the work that I'm doing is taking overflow off of people's desks when it comes to manager research, investment due diligence. a big part of me and my mission is alignment of values with your money. Working at the intersection of money and meaning, purpose and profit, whatever your desired profit is. And the words that are used are impact and values-based analysis. And so within that framework, it's the idea of saying, no longer am I going to make a whole lot of money and then throw it back at some of the world's biggest problems. I want to make money in solving the world's greatest problems,
Yes.
right? And so doing some strategy and advice about helping people align their portfolios, align their investments. And it doesn't have to be a ton of money, right? We can all be change makers in our own way. It's about attitude. It's, like I said, I love asking the tough questions. I love, kind of starting the challenging conversations, be it postpartum and all the nastiness that comes along with it that nobody really shares, or maybe they do, but they're afraid to. And so going back to your earlier question, like, do you think that anyone could prepare you? No. But on the flip side, I wish there were more people on the other side waiting to like catch me or pull it out.
Yeah.
Right. The first time I told a friend of mine who had a baby a few months after, like, you might hate your child for the first couple months. I love Miles, but it took me a long time to get there, and she was so afraid to talk about that emotion, and I was like, no, it was miserable the first couple months until you figure it out.
Well, and it's just like you're meeting a new person, you know, and I think that there's a huge expectation of like, oh, well, you carried this child inside of you, so when the child is born, you like have this natural connection. Some people do, some people don't. I've never had that. I've never had like that. Like I can remember Posey, like, you know, you hear all these like wonderful birth stories, right? You only hear the really good ones. And Posey was born, I had her naturally, and they put her on my chest. And
Posey was your first.
Posey was my first. She's 5 now. So they put her on my chest, and I'm just like, so I like looked at Mark. I'm like, please take her away from me. She stinks. But but it's just true. I had no desire to like hang out with her at that moment. I wanted her like cleaned off. Right. And then Ruby was different.
But for you to say that out loud, right, lends itself to other.
You really stumped.
But like, if you don't say that out loud and you hold it inside, and I remember people saying to me, this is what you've always wanted, because I became a mom at 41, so a little bit older, a little bit more set in my ways. All of a sudden, my body's totally different. Like, this thing came out of me that made me sick for so long. I threw up for 9 months straight and had a lot of other things going on, and I had preeclampsia, and you had to go to the
Albany Med emergency. Oh my
God, I had everything. We could talk offline.
We could talk about the babies making and having.
But he was creating a petri dish, so you know, we could talk about IVF.
So you did IVF? Oh my God! Well, this is like
let's stick to this topic. Okay, and we'll go back.
Okay, see, well, this is why Marcella has our questions.
I know, and
how did 30 minutes go by so fast?
Because you and I talk. But so
you have to stay close to me though.
Okay.
See, sorry. People want to see
you. Wait, where was I? I lost my train of thought.
Well, just that we have so much to talk about, but
okay, so going back.
Well, like, first of all, I also want to point out that in the event, people are like, oh, I don't know if I need a strategist or a consultant, or I don't know if I need that service because I'm like a solo entrepreneur and I'm doing everything by myself, or any of those things. Like, I literally want to introduce you to Kelsey. She was just in here, and so I'm totally gonna remember to do this now because I'm saying it.
Okay, is she online?
I don't think she is. She's probably at work right now, but I want to introduce you to her because she was just talking about this notion.
There are a lot of people listening.
Yeah, of course.
Wow,
people are watching us. We're the shit.
Hello, everybody.
But there's this like thing, right, where you're like a local small business and you don't think that you have the means to bring on a consultant or bring in a market or anything, like outsource anything. You feel like it's not in your wheelhouse to do that, and you do it all yourself. But like, This is what big corporations do all the time. They hire in consultants so that they can focus on what it is they're most valuable at, right? And that can also be translated in a small business. It should be translated in a small business. And I think that's one other thing that's going on here is being able to find partners and being able to, it's nothing is, you know, so challenging or so expensive that we can't have conversations, figure it out, each other. Yeah, and also, like, I don't know shit about finance, right? So like this is one thing that I constantly got your feedback on through this whole journey was like, how should I structure this? How should I do this? How do I get the money? What does that look like? I don't come from like the venture capital world. My dad's a contractor. My mom was a school teacher. Venture capital was not even a thing that I like. Any of that, or investments, or private equity, like none of that shit resonated with me ever at all. I always just was raised to do it the like self-funded, bootstrap, loans, credit cards, and that's not the only way, right? So it's important to bring people in that have other expertise that want to help you figure it out.
Let me talk about the biggest part of the business, right? So I was talking about impact investing, philanthropy. We went off on a little tangent, so I lost a little thought because I was up very late last night and early this morning with Miles. But one of the biggest things that I believe is that there's a gap in financial literacy, right? If you were not raised to understand the difference between a stock and a bond, if you were not raised and taught in school or even at home about a budget, about saving, about retirement, about basic financial literacy concepts, and the numbers and the statistics are actually really alarming. I don't love to quote them because it depends on which source you look at, but essentially, and there's a lot more states now that are mandating high school education on basic financial literacy, but then there's this entire gap of generations. If you don't have a basic understanding, then that informs so many decisions throughout your life. It creates insecurities, it creates inefficiencies. So one of the things that I pride this business on is a philosophy of education, right? If I don't know the answers, I will find somebody that can help. That's my biggest thing. But literally, one of the questions that Marcella did trigger you on is about the events that I've been hosting, the Get the Paper.
Yeah.
Which is literally a down and dirty conversation about money. And this idea that
it's no judgment and it's education. Like literally you come as you are. And it's like it is a safe place. It's not just like a buzzword that we use around here. It really is a place where you can come and say, oh my God, I'm like hiding money from Susie Q because I'm afraid that they're going to say, whatever it is. I'm just making this up.
I had somebody ask me what a bond was, right? And I'm not using that as an anecdotal example, or is it like these are real stories, and I'm very careful about sort of who, but
but women, I will speak for myself. I did not get an education on finance ever. My parents didn't. They argued about it, but they never talked about it. They never talked about what it all looked like, and that was, that has certainly rolled over into my personal life now. And a lot of the times, even in conversations with people about palette, it's like, oh, I'm not comfortable with the numbers, so we'll loop in my accountant to talk about that stuff, which is just dumb. Of course I know the numbers. It's my business. I'm in it day to day. I know what the numbers are. So I just need to feel that empowerment and confidence when I'm talking about it, right? Which is this is all stuff that I did not know until I knew. Okay.
So all of this, the bottom line is emotion, right? If somebody didn't take the time, and it's not a right or wrong, it's not a good or a bad, there's not a blame here, but it's not your fault, but it is your problem. I think that was a big Disney quote in philosophy, which David actually employs in his practice, and we're constantly talking about it as part
shameless
of our family.
Shameless you knew shameless.
Yes, one is in dental care, Clifton Park. Actually,
right.
I think they're mechanical. I don't know. It's just a little bit dumb.
If you need your teeth cleaned, you go see.
Not just clean.
He does it. He does it all. He's like an oral surgeon, right?
Not an oral surgeon, but he does implants and he does restorative, smile making. He makes people smile, which I think is.
I love that.
So, because it's not your fault, but it's your problem.
You have to deal with it.
There's a certain level of literacy that I would love to see every woman and man that didn't have the opportunity to learn at some point in life to just have, because there's an emotion behind it. There's a confidence. There is a productivity to it. And I'm not saying you need to start making some crazy, complicated investments. Leave that to the people that know how to do it. I used to say all the time, just because I know how to use a drill doesn't mean I'm going to drill my own tooth. Leave that to the professionals.
Yeah.
Now, money and the issues around money are every day, and everybody has to deal with them. So there's this kind of this push and this feeling that I should know how to save. I should know what a bond is. I should know. And you can go online and you can read it all in a million different sources.
Are you doing that? You're not.
Because
people are not doing that.
Right? Because it's overwhelming. Because you can't get the right information. Because it's not tailored to you and what you need. Right? So a lot of the work that I'm doing is within financial literacy and talking about the emotion of money. Money is perceived to be a brain business, a dollars and cents business, a technical business, anything to do with money, whether it's paying your rent, whether it's making investments, starting a business, saving for retirement. I mean, there's so much that revolves around money. But the idea is at the end of the day, it's recognizing that money is no longer just a brain business, it's a brain and a heart business. So to get to that level and to have your advisors understand what you want and how you want it and where you need it to be is critical. So part of the business focus is not only financial literacy, but helping people understand what kind of advisors and what kind of professionals they need in their life as part of their village. I always like to say that I build a great village around me, and I pick the people that are complementary to me or that are filling something that I can't do, recognizing that we can't all do everything. I mean, if you can, I want to meet you because you're some sort of superpower, but we all have different superpowers.
So I say this all the time that I can do everything. I can do everything that I want to freaking do. I can be a mom to 3, a business owner of 2, a husband to, I can do it all, but I cannot do it alone. Right. So I do the same. I pull in the people that are going to support me in the things that those are my blind spots.
And when it comes to matters of money, right, you have to have a basic understanding of what you need in order to pick the right partners. And that's where a complication gets. Hi. That is a Star Baker right back there. So what do I mean by that? Like, you know, a recent college grad that has a couple $1,000s in the bank. And this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. That is my disclaimer. That, you know, they don't need
No one's listening to me right now and this about, I just...
Fine, but I got to say it. I'm a registered representative.
Okay.
But the idea is that, you know, what is if they need a little bit of budgeting help, they have a couple $1,000s in the bank, they could probably use a robo-advisor, an online solution. They'll punch in a bit about their risk tolerance, like how much they're willing to lose and how much they want to make and all these different factors. And I don't want to get too detailed. And we could do another online session about money if you want. But or you can come into one of my sessions.
Yeah. So well, when is it? It's
we didn't plan the next ones, but I think what we're gonna do for the next series. Hi, ladies. But for the next series, I think we're gonna go topic specific.
Okay.
So let me explain a little bit. But let me just finish that thought, which is this idea that you need to understand basic financial concepts in order to figure out what you need, right? So a young person that doesn't have a ton of money, that's just starting out their career, they don't need an expensive solutions provider that's going to be, you know, constantly putting them in and out of different stocks and doing financial planning. And unfortunately, the world that we live in is a competitive environment where people are just looking to gather assets. I shouldn't say people, I'm saying advisors. Without necessarily looking for the best interests of the clients. And then there are some really, really wealthy families that I've seen that are completely, I mean, like really successful business owners that don't understand what they need vis-a-vis their own financial picture, whether they need estate planners, whether they need trust advisors, whether they need all these different things. And because I've spent the last 20 years, I have a little bit of a different insight into kind of understanding the background and what you need and saying, okay, you need a planner on this tax part. Okay, and tax is really part of the story, but you really need somebody who's going to be able to make some really good investments for you, or helping people decide, you know, what's enough, right? And what is your enough? And what do you want your living legacy to be? And who is going to help you decide those things? And who's going to help you guide you through that process? So that's a lot of what this business is about, is kind of having those tough conversations, creating the baseline of education, and then going out and helping you find those providers. And since I'm independent, I'm not connected to any one institution, it's about finding the best fit, right? Yeah. It's about recognizing that you and I clicked, but you might not click with the next member, and that's okay. It's like recognizing where you can be and where you can't be, and understanding that you can't be everywhere, and you can't be friends with all people. And I mean, these are life lessons that I'm hoping to
that you will incorporate into your business.
Incorporate to the business. And so it is really exciting. We're actually officially launching on April 16th. I mean, I've already submitted a few proposals, and it's like a whole crazy process. I keep saying to David and my father, like, I'm really doing this. Like, I never thought of myself, particularly as an entrepreneur, because I think there's so many amazing people out there that are doing so many amazing things, and I love to help people create the frameworks around that, to help them take the next level. I mean, you know, even with you and our friendship and kind of asking the tough questions, what do you want to be and how do you want to be? I didn't necessarily want to do my own thing, but so my business is really focused on helping everyone be bigger, badder, and better. So anyway,
I love it.
That's the long way around saying that on April 16th, on the Upper West Side boutique, Rebecca Taylor, the national clothing brand, is hosting my launch party in a partnership together.
Oh, cool.
It's a really long story short, but essentially, I love Rebecca Taylor. I'm wearing her suit now. It has a little bit of flair to it.
I love it. I love the
coming back. Oh, that actually might be them right now. Let me decline that call. Coming back to the work world, I was used to being in a suit 24/7, 365. I mean, I even had like, weekend suits, and that was just sort of part of my brand, right? We all talk about building brands and who you are and what you're known for. And then all of a sudden, like, I go out on maternity leave and I gain all this weight because it was IVF and hormones. And let's face it, it was really much more fun to eat pizza and all sorts of bad stuff when you're pregnant. And then once you're not pregnant and you have this thing that's, anyway, that is also a different conversation. That
we have so many different conversations.
But so Rebecca Taylor has clothes in, so right now I'm wearing a size 16, and she carries some really cool stuff. And I mean, all of her lines extend to a 16. So one day I was returning something because I bought a few things for interview and to make me feel good, because right, it's all about how you feel and how you admit to the world. And I was returning this one item, and I said to the woman behind the counter, David and Miles were outside, so I was trying to be a little fast, but of course my eyes were like roaming around to all the delicious clothing. And I'm not by any stretch of fashionista. I like nice things and nice clothes, but like I'm not always seeking out style. So my mom does that. She's really good at that. Hi, Mom, if you're on. So I said to the girl behind the counter, like, I really just wanted to express how grateful I am that Rebecca Taylor carries extended lines, right? Because not all the brands that I like to wear
that are like
decent,
adorable,
right? And in that, like a size 16 isn't such a big deal, right? And of course, we can get into the whole New York fashion world, but that's a different story. And I said, so please tell Rebecca. I said, thank you. And she's like, well, I think she said something like, well, you can thank me. I'm the one that kind of presented the idea that there's a whole market opportunity that's missing. And I was like, well, thanks. And then we got into this whole conversation about, it doesn't matter what size you are. She's had women in her dressing room from size 0 that cry about how they feel and how they're admitting to the world and lack of confidence and all these things. Like it's all tied together, whether it's fashion, finance, like all these things. It's emotion, and it's recognizing that like it's okay to have emotion, but let's figure it out together. Like build your village of people to help you if there's those challenges. And so she's like, can we do a shopping party together? Because some of the work that I do is based on gender justice, right? Creating sort of a parity or a justice between the two sexes. I don't like to use the word equality. Men are different than women, period. So how can you create equality between two different things? But we can try to create more just, so equal pay, equal rights, equal all these. I shouldn't say equal rights, but the idea is that it's being just. It's all of these concepts.
Like doing what's right.
Doing what's right, doing what's fair, right? If you deserve the job, then you should get it. If you don't have the qualifications, then you shouldn't get it.
Right.
We can go on and on those examples. So
this is a whole other thing with like VC dollars, right? Like it's like, only 3% of the VC money goes to women. And so now what I think, you're the one who gave me this book, the Leapfrog book.
Yeah.
And she talks about how, well, we can't
shout out to Natalie.
We can't just invest in women because they're women-owned businesses. We still have to invest in like the best business.
Right. Just because doesn't mean you should. That's not to say that you can't give every advantage and every opportunity. And if you see something in front of you that needs help, I think women, at least in my world, in my circles, would be like absolutely. Like, if someone sees something in my business plan that they're like, hey, this might make sense. It's not going to be easy to hear because I've poured my whole like last 20 years, blood, sweat, and tears, and working to the wee hours of the morning over the last couple of months, which I love to do. But now it's a little different when you have a baby who wakes up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maya.
Why did I go to sleep?
But recognizing that we all need a little help and we can all be better. And actually, my friend Lisa edited one of my about statements, and she's like, "Do you hate me?" I was like, "No." It's not to say that I'm going to take all your advice, but like, thank you for being honest with me and not just saying it's great. Like, I think I've done that with some of your stuff.
Yes,
too.
you have. No, like it's so freaking important, right? Because like women, we feel guilty and we didn't do that, so we feel bad, and that's ridiculous. We have to throw that shit out of the window. Right. We have to act like with no guilt and no regret and nothing, and don't take it personally.
But
right?
I think that you need to act with humility and empathy.
You can and not take it personally, though.
You can, but it's hard, and so you have to know kind of how to approach the situation. With you, I can just be like, that sucked. With somebody else that I'm reviewing their deck or helping them build a business, they have to be a little bit more gingerly. I'm working with a woman now who has an incredible business idea. Can't talk about it more openly. Like, she's the sweetest person, but she does not know how to present herself well. And I don't think she really understands, right? So it's recognizing kind of how to help her. She knows she needs help, but she doesn't understand why. So it's about being empathetic. It's about being sympathetic. It's about knowing your audience. It's about taking all of these challenges and presenting it. And that's why we talk about more strategy being cross-disciplinary, because it's not just about one area, it's about multiple areas. It's not like I'm about to submit a proposal to a guy who is trying to build more like employee wellness. So we're going to do some impact investing program and literacy program inside his business. He's going to spend a lot of money, and it's really cool. But he's like, who are you and why are you here? And I'm like, I'm not exactly sure, but here's how I can help you. Right? It's acknowledging that like it doesn't fit into a neat box, and none of this does, but there are roads, there are paths. So anyway, the launch party is April 16th.
Okay.
I think it's from 5 to 8. So it's going to be like shopping and hors d'oeuvres, and we're going to do a little bit of programming, but it's basically a nice way to kind of put, a formal point, even though, as David said, like I'm already,
you're doing it.
I'm doing it.
You're doing it now.
It's really fun to do it in partnership. Yes. In this case with Rebecca Taylor, and to talk about women's issues and to have the opportunity to get a discount on clothes and
yes.
And to support one of my favorite nonprofits in the city, which is Bottomless Closet,
awesome.
Which I stepped off the board when I moved because geography, blah blah. Maybe I'll start one up here someday.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
But let me figure it out here first. So anyway, that's the whole story.
I'm so excited. So like if people want to know more about you, they can come to get that paper event, which is a financial literacy event, but it's super fun.
We started talking about it because I think what we're going to do is we're going to start up another 3-part series. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got from the first 3 sessions was, next, let's go into like a topic oriented. So what I was doing in the initial sessions was just gauging what levels of literacy were. And the idea is that you get in a room of 8 to 12 women. Actually, the last session we had a guy, it was really amazing. I was super nervous because I'm used to playing in my element, right? And he was really challenging us with some wonderful topics.
That's awesome.
And it's about creating the space around the table where someone might say, oh, I've had that experience before. Robyn, can you share some ideas? Can you share some challenges? And it's about a collaborative effort, but it's literally introducing basic concepts of money. We do some word association, we do some memory games, we do some really fun stuff to like open the space that like money isn't just about business. Money isn't just brain. It's brain and heart.
Yeah, and dispel the notion that like if you make X amount of dollars, all of your money stress goes away. That's just not true.
No,
for anyone.
Not even.
And
those are the cultural shifts that I'm talking about. Yeah. And that's why I started this business, is to go one by one by one. And sure, there's going to be parts of my business where it's just about making the money, because we all want to do nice things and have nice things, or at least I do, and I want to be able to share them with everybody.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to be eating ramen noodles every night.
We can talk about that another day.
Or macaroni and cheese is one of the go-to cheap meal, which is not healthy at all. But anyway,
you can hide trees in it. Yeah. Anyway.
I know how to. Anyway, this is like going back to like.
So I'm here to help, right?
I'm so excited for you. So the Get That Paper event is monthly, and it's gonna be. It used to be unstructured, but now it's gonna be a bit more structured. But most important is that it's for everyone.
It's just gonna be topic oriented. So we're gonna do like retirement 101. We're going to do savings accounts 101. We're going to do interest rates. We're going to do investing. Like, we're going to take one topic instead of giving one of the other topics. As I started to talk about my business, is sort of this matchmaking between you and the services that you need. That was one area that we dug into for a while. So maybe we'll do one on that topic. And I'm going to bring in some experts. The other thing I think that was on the list was going to be doing like identity theft and what to do, because identity theft affects your credit rating and all of your like it creates a financial mess potentially, right? So some people don't think that's necessarily linked, but it is. So and if there's a topic that you guys are interested in, I don't know, you can put it in the comment section.
Put it in the comment section.
Or
let us know what you're thinking.
There's really a lot of people. Okay,
yeah,
Hello.
they're here to see you.
No, they're
talk about finance. Well, I think it's the more conversations we can have about money and not it be like I mean, a lot of the times I'm like, I'm in business to make money. Like I'm not in business to, of course I'm like helping women and I want to support
to make a change. You're in
right, but I still need to eat, right? And I still need a house to live in, and we have 3 kids to support. So like, yeah, obviously we're making money.
What did I tell you about entrepreneurs? What did I tell you about entrepreneurs that are living too shoestring, right? We talked about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What
we
goal?
Have 8 minutes left.
I know. So, are you able to come tonight to the Thursday night Schenectady party?
I can't. You just put me on the spot.
Well, you're already a member, so. But if you're listening and you're interested, we're having an event. We're announcing how you can become a founding member of our Schenectady location, which will open in May. And it's tonight from 5:30 to 6:30, and we're gonna have some special incentives to join that, to just do this whole thing that we did in Saratoga. I mean, why not do it in Schenectady?
Right.
There are women there that need a lot of support, and we can give it. So I'm super excited about that, and the building is beautiful.
Well, I'll come. I can't. David has meetings, and I have a meeting 1 more week, so.
Well, you can bring Miles.
I could.
Okay. One of the things I love is that before you started your business, you called yourself the CEO of your family. That really inspired me, and I think it would inspire other women too. Have you thought about putting that on that T-shirt?
Yeah, that's really fun. So I think when you guys announced this, when you announced this live, you put me as CEO of More Strategy, but that isn't my
just
title.
Did that. Well,
it's okay. It's okay.
We'll change it. What are you?
At the end of the day, it's not
principal?
about titles. I'm
owner,
founder, I'm lead principal.
We're gonna lead principal.
The idea is to grow us and to have other people with all different kind of superpowers. But the idea was, some of it was for me and my own sort of feeling that I wasn't in the business world and what was I doing and how was I getting things done. And running a family is really freaking tough. I don't care if you're a family of 1 or a family of 20. Like there are so many things that we do day in and day out. And actually I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. I was like, I don't know how I got all this stuff done when I was working. Like you just do, but it's so much more at the forefront. So when people would ask me, I'm like, I'm the CEO of my family. And then when I was starting this business and my dad, who was doing a little bit of strategy work with me and helping me decide what to call everything and how to do it. It's literally like, you want to put forth your best essence. And at first I was like, well, I'll just be a CEO. And he's like, no. And I'm like, Dad, it doesn't stand for Chief Executive Officer. It stands for Chief Everything Officer.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I say that a little tongue in cheek, and I don't want to be too cutesy, because at the end of the day, going back to the whole Rebecca Taylor thing, I grew up in a world where I was always, again, I said this, I was always in suits and always dressed really seriously, because I learned.
Corporate businesswoman.
Well, but here's the thing, is that
says the lady in her black turtleneck.
Well, you should see her pants. They've got smiley faces.
I know. I can't. Well, I think the world has seen that.
Okay,
before.
but so
it's like basically my uniform.
Actually, this is a shout out to an old boss of one of my best friends from college, Ron Zuckerman, and I don't know if I can't remember which boss it was, but during the big blackout in, I think it was 2012, I ended up having like a ton of people in my apartment because people couldn't get home, and we were talking about dressing in suits and this and that, and Ron said to me that his philosophy is when people start taking their money and their work and their business less seriously, then we as the confidants, as the providers, will start dressing less seriously. So I've always sort of carried that through, which is why it's really exciting with Rebecca Taylor. Like she dresses seriously, but she dresses well, right? Yeah. Like she has a little fun with it, which I think is reflective of where I've come and where I'm going and where I want to be. So
there were several people. I just went to the Female Founders Collective Day event yesterday in the city, and there were like 3 startups that are like starting up their own women's workwear companies. It's
Yeah,
really
like,
cool.
And then LaFleur is a really awesome one. I mean, there's a bunch of them that are like, but they all are starting with like, and having secondary and tertiary missions, right? About creating spaces for women.
Because they need to feel confident. Like I don't feel comfortable in like a business suit that doesn't have some sort of sparkle to it. Like that's just not me.
Right.
So,
but then you have to have the courage to figure that out.
Right.
I mean, the first time I went to a business meeting, I was running late, and it was about the content. And I think I showed up because I was coming after Soul Cycle, and I showed up in gym clothes, and I said it was with you, but no, maybe it was downstate. And I said to the person, please don't view the outside as a reflection of my dedication and my interest and my excitement for this project, right? And so, right, like then that became like a whole like wacky head trip about the fact that like, oh my God, I'm having a business meeting and I'm in workout clothes. I was so comfortable. I mean, I have gotten comfortable in suits over the years, although not wearing them in the last couple of years, I've become a little less comfortable. But
I love because
the uniform and also
because of like my life and what I do on a regular basis. Like, I mean, at the paint studio and just in general, I never wore a suit, and I think it's super fun to pretend. To be
but
like
it's not a pretend.
Serious.
It's like a big girl thing.
I'm like a casual businesswoman, not a serious.
I watched my dad go to work every morning when I was little. Like I remember watching him tie his tie in the mirror and putting on his suit, and I would look and I would like that was my impression of like being a business person, like putting on a suit and tie and go to work. Yeah. So like when I realized that like it wasn't. I mean, at one point I was like, I'm just gonna wear ties. Like I'm gonna wear button downs, like, and I'm gonna do that whole thing. And of course, it didn't really go over well, and I couldn't really find anything that worked. But
it's so much fun.
It's
clothes,
but you
dressing.
Have to make it fun.
You have to dress for success.
Yeah, you do.
Dress
for
the
how
you feel.
You want,
Sometimes you feel like wearing fucking yoga pants.
Right. And that's success too. And
I feel like that as soon as I get home. As soon as I get home, I have to take off whatever.
Who doesn't want to get into comfy clothes when they get home?
But sometimes, I mean, I remember there was like a couple of weeks ago, not weeks, it was like months ago. It was like after Zia was born, and I was wearing like,
I don't know any of these people.
I don't.
Where are my friends?
I was wearing, I don't know, like yoga pants and a hoodie and a jacket and a beanie, and Mark's like, you look like a homeless person. I was like, you know what? I feel like a homeless person.
Why would you say that?
Because that's how I felt. That's how I felt.
But how do you know how a homeless person feels?
Well, I felt down and out.
Okay.
And I would imagine that is how.
But maybe not. Maybe a person chooses that.
Well, you're right. I'm not trying to offend the homeless people.
I know. I'm just trying to push you and challenge you to
not
make assumptions.
Defend my.
No, not make assumptions. I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to say that you didn't feel put together.
I didn't feel. I wanted to wear freaking a hoodie and a beanie and yoga pants because I was feeling like down and out.
Say what you mean.
No, I know you're right. Words have meaning.
Words have meaning more than we know.
Mark and I talk about this all the time because I do just say what I'm thinking, and it's not always the most sensitive.
I'm close enough with you that I can call you.
I know. Well, that's what we need, though, right? Like I need people to call me out, and we all do.
So
we all do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's not easy, but it's what's going to make the world a better place, in our opinion.
Yes.
Okay,
we're done whenever we want to be done.
Okay.
I wanted to say one last thing.
Okay.
What's your favorite thing about Palette besides me?
I think for me, it's very selfish. It's knowing that I have a place for me in this new community. That's it. I mean, it's very simple. And
that's like why you joined. You weren't like working on something.
No, for me it's not.
When you joined.
Right. For me, it's not. Well, I was interviewing, right? But I didn't think I was gonna get any support from that. But like, it's not about the programming. It's not about. And candidly, like, I go to the city multiple times a week. It's about literally having a place that I can be where there's other awesome women and I'm learning and I'm figuring it out and I can just be here. That's it. That's my favorite thing about it. The existence of it, I think.
Well, you helped create it.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Is there anything else? Any last words? Oh, I love this one. This is a really good one. What would you tell your younger self?
Oh, God. About what?
Just like, can you think back to like 10, 20 years ago when you might have been like, going through something, like what would present Robyn have told younger Robyn? Like,
I think through so many of my experiences in life, whether it was illness or broken engagement or losing
broken engagement,
or
I hear a story there,
or just like times of like such great challenge, like you like learn from it, pull from it, build from it. I'm supposed to be going away at the end of the month on a mission with a whole bunch of really wonderful, amazing people. We're going to Latvia and France to do some humanitarian work and to do some work on anti-Semitism. And let's face it was just a really fun excuse to go away with 150 of my closest friends, and it was just postponed. And so,
is it because of Corona?
It is because of Corona, and it's really disappointing. But and finding the silver lining. So for me,
you won't get Corona. There's a silver lining. The chances are lower now.
But I think that I would tell my younger self that to just seek the silver linings, to go right through the pain, to go right through the experience, and along the way there must be silver linings and things that you can learn from, and everything really happens for a reason. But you can tell that to somebody, but until they have an experience with it, it's just like pregnancy and all the other stuff we're talking about, until you go through it. But just knowing that you have a village around you, or not, if you don't want a village, that you can rely on, right? So silver linings, that's my
thank you so
that's
much.
my hashtag.
Silver lining.
Hashtag silver lining.
Thank you so much for doing this, for being here.
I was like nervous to do this, but
well, it's kind of nerve-wracking, but I mean,
I put myself out there so that I could hopefully help others.
That's well, you will. I mean, I say this all the time. When you tell your story, if you could possibly change one person's life to say, you know what, I need to get my finances together, or you know what, I need to decide to make a change. Like if you can do, if you sharing this does that for one person, it was worth it.
Yeah, for
right?
Sure.
Like you literally, it's a disservice to the world not to share your story, your experience, and your expertise with everyone.
And that's what we did with Get the Paper. I think that I got multiple phone calls about, some of the biggest fights that people have ever had with their significant others that led to more fights, but led to the acknowledgement that something needs to be done, or led somebody to ask me a question that they've been like seeking the answer to for years and years and years, and they finally like put their head on their pillow and rest, or just that they had a good time, right? That they appreciated being in the room, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah.
So show up.
You're showing up.
Be honest. And by the way, that is a really important part of the work that I'm doing, is that even with this guy that I mentioned that I'm writing a proposal for, he's like, I want to do something bigger than me. And I was like, well, who are you? Right? And what are your definitions? And this is where I'm bridging the gap between the traditional world and this world of change and this new culture that we hope we're all going to adapt to, is that because he didn't want to acknowledge who he was. And I'm like, well, if we don't acknowledge, who he is, I should say, if you don't want to put some parameters and framework around that, how are we supposed to build something that's bigger than you? Right. And I get it. The proverbial, wants to change the world, and that's amazing. But in practicality, you have to define who you are and define what you want.
And when you do, like incredible things will happen. When you invest in yourself, in your story, in what you really want to do, when you figure that out, when you
and I'm here
do
to help
the
you figure it out.
When you do the dig deeping,
the
dipper digging.
Well, I think
it's like I never in a million years would have 10 years ago, if I would have told myself like, Catherine, you were gonna have like 3 businesses, 3 children, you're gonna be super busy, super successful, whatever that means, I would have been like, what?
Right.
You've lost your mind and you have pink hair.
But I think the important part of it, and what scares people, and this is where I'm also hoping that the business will attract, is that it doesn't have to be this big, tough, arduous process. It can be done over time. It can be done in short periods, and once a decision is made, you feel good. But that doesn't mean it has to be a permanent decision, right? I think people get lost in these topics, don't want to be honest, don't want to do the work, because it might be tough, but it doesn't have to be a whole big thing. Start little, period. Okay.
I was about to sneeze, but
God bless you.
I suppressed the sneeze, the urge to sneeze. Okay. I'm so happy that you were here with us.
Thank you.
I'm so thankful for your presence. And, you know, half of it is just showing up and listening.
It is.
And being there for each other. Well, yeah, you're supposed to look up at this camera.
I was looking at you and I was looking at us.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. See you
Thanks
next week.
Does that get